Jane, you're on mute.
Sorry, there you go. Right, I think we're about ready to go. We're just waiting for one other councillor, Councillor Aslam. So if you just want to wait a couple of minutes and then we'll get going.
Okay.
Right, Councillor Aslam will be with us shortly. So could I just welcome everybody to the Nelson Area Committee. I'm Jane Watson, Head of Democratic Services. I'm just going to go through a roll call of members who are present, and then I will hand you over to Councillor Mohammed Saqib, who's the chairman of this committee. So we've got with us today Councillor George Adam, Councillor Nadeem Ahmed, Councillor Zafar Ali, Councillor Mohammed Amma, Councillor Mohammed Iqbal, Councillor Neil McGowan, Councillor Mohammed Saqib and Councillor Yvonne Tennant, as well as Nicholas Emery, who is a co-optee from Nelson Town Centre Partnership. We've also got officers Julie Whitaker, who's the area coordinator, and Alex Cameron, who's the planning officer. Over to you, Chairman.
Sorry, thank you very much for that. Can I have apologies, please?
Can I give apologies from Councillor Julie Henderson, Ashjad Mahmood, Eileen Ansar and Kath Shaw.
Eileen Ansar as well. Thank you very much for that. Can we straight go on to the agenda then? First item on the agenda is declaration of interest. Can I have any declarations at all? I know I've got one in application, very last application on the agenda, that is 20/0209/HHO. It is my personal property, so I will not be taking part in this discussion on this item. Jane, do we have any?
I think Councillor Aslam, when he comes on, is declaring a non-prejudicial interest in the planning application relating to 148 and 150 Scotland Road. It's his sister's property. He's joining us, he's not with us just yet.
Right, okay.
Could I just ask that we could have nominations for a vice chairman at this point, please, just for when Councillor Saqib needs to leave the meeting?
Yeah, can I propose Councillor Iqbal chair the meeting? For that.
I'll second that, Chairman.
Yeah. All those in favour? Do we just need to raise hand, or what do we do, Jane?
I think for the purpose of this, you can just raise your hands or say your names at the moment. We'll go around everybody.
I'll go around then. I'll go around in order. George, Councillor George Adam.
4.
Yeah, Councillor Nadeem Ahmed. Is he not with us yet? Councillor Zafar Ali.
4.
Councillor Mohammed Ahmed. Ahmed, can you hear me? He might be muted. I can't see him.
Yeah, he's on mute.
Yeah.
Ahmed, you need to come off mute.
Is it okay?
Ahmed, are you in favour? The Councillor Iqbal is. Yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Cooney, do we know if he's with us?
No, he's not with us as yet.
Right, okay. Councillor Iqbal? Councillor Iqbal?
4.
Councillor McGovern? Is he with us?
Against.
Okay. Then myself, 4. Councillor Yvonne Cannon,
4.
and Sheila Wicks, Councillor Sheila Wicks. I'm not sure she's with us or not.
No, she's not with us yet.
She's not with us. So that is carried.
Just to, I think Councillor Wicks is here. She's on mute. I can see her on the participants list.
Just bear with us. Let Sheila join us. Jen, let me know when I can move forward.
I think Jane's on mute.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
taken
know
it
if
off. I've taken it off. Councillor Wicks, can you unmute, please? I'll get somebody to give her a ring.
Right, okay. We'll carry on then. Do you want us to carry on, or do you want us to wait a couple of seconds?
I know you can carry on.
Right, okay, thank you. Right, minutes of the last meeting. Anybody?
Move the minutes, Chair.
Second them.
Thank you. Anybody to second them?
I'll second.
Yeah. Is everybody happy with them? If somebody's have any issues, you raise please your hand.
You know,
Otherwise,
happy
I'll
with
take
them,
them to
Chairman.
everybody. Yeah. I'm going to take that as approval then. Right, okay, we'll move on to third item, that is planning applications. First application we've got in front of us is for 18 studio apartments in Vernon Street. Can I look forward to somebody from that area, please, to take the lead?
Chairman, can I just make a suggestion? It's Iqbal.
Yeah.
I know you've got some speakers on some of the applications. I'm just wondering whether we rejig the agenda to take into account those people that have got the names down to speak, and we can deal with those. And then if those people need to leave the meeting, they can. It's only a suggestion.
We do have a speaker on the first item as well, Councillor Sakib.
First, second, and third. So it will we'll keep them in order as they are on the agenda. Can I again ask if the agent Umar Farooq, if he's logged in, he's with us?
Yes, he was.
He was.
I'll just need to check.
Hello.
Umar,
Yes.
do you want to speak now, or do you want to just watch what happens? Do you want to have any?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak if required, but yeah, I haven't prepared a statement or anything. So I'm present if you've got any questions.
Okay. If a member have any questions, then we'll bring you.
Okay.
That's fine. Right. Anybody open to all members, board councillors?
What application are we looking at now?
First application, George.
Vernon Street.
Vernon Street.
Yeah. Well, I'll be voting to refuse this one. I mean, 18 flats seems ridiculous in a small piece of land like that. Now, not only that, it's going to generate traffic. If there's 18 people living there, they each have a car, it'll generate traffic right next to a young children's play area. Now, traffic and young children don't mix. So I think on the grounds of the lack of parking and the danger there could be to young children, and it being such a ludicrous application, that I'll be voting to refuse it.
Chairman, can I come in?
Yes, Councillor
Yes.
Zafar Ali.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, George. I will be seconding Councillor Adam in his move to refuse this application. There are a number of issues with the land as it stands. I won't go into that. I'm sure members who have taken a visit down to the area can see that for themselves. In fact, some of the objections list the current issues with this land. The proposed development is certainly uncharacteristic of the area. And as George has mentioned, to have apartments where there isn't, I can't think of a single development in that area for a couple of miles even where anything at all like this exists. We've got a community centre right next door to this proposed development. It's simply not acceptable for, not only because of the objections which are, quite clearly listed on page 4 of the planning report, but also because of the continued impact that this development would have on the children who, use the play area to the left of this proposed development, to the visitors who are obviously expected in the community centre to the right of this proposed development. But I think for me, the most important aspect of this is the impact on the area, with such an uncharacteristic development. So I will be seconding Councillor Adam on his move to refuse this application.
Anybody else?
I think you've got Councillor Nadeem Ahmed next.
Okay, thank you for that, Jane. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My view on this item is that this application is to be welcomed because I understand colleagues on the Town Council and the Area Committee have had concerns over this piece of land in terms of the site being left there since the building was damaged by a fire. It's a derelict site, and I think a proposed development of this nature would actually benefit and enhance the area rather than leave it as it is, possibly for many, many years ahead. There is a residential area. I accept Councillor Adams and Councillor Ali's points in terms of the residential area, but I think the benefit this application would have to the residents is greater than what it currently is in terms of an eyesore and a potential hazard for that site, with people using it possibly as a dumping site. And that is a big concern for me. We've got a playground next to this site. There's a community centre. So I think these are the reasons actually why I would suggest that we should approve the application rather than use it as an argument to refuse it. I know the comments of Lancashire County Council that they do have some concerns on page 5, which they've mentioned. But at this moment in time, I think we are looking at this application. It is an outline application, mainly dealing with the access issue and the principle of the idea itself rather than the detail, which would come at a later stage. Again, there's arguments about sustainability in terms of school places and healthcare provision as a result of these 18 additional residential apartments. On page 8, it refers to the opinion which we as an authority have obtained from council, and I'm happy to accept that advice from legal counsel that we don't need to make any additional provision in terms of additional conditions regarding that. So I will be moving this application for approval. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right, thank you for that. Jane, anybody else? I can't see anybody raising hands, so you have to help me.
Jane, I'm raising my hand.
Yes, you are, Alex. Yes.
Yeah, Alex, please.
This application, if the committee is minded to refuse the application on the grounds stated, then it would need to be referred to Policy and Resources Committee in consultation with our Legal Services section. There aren't any sustainable grounds to refuse this application in terms of highway safety. and the other reasons were vague and generalised, and they would result in a significant risk of costs against the council.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Councillor Zafar Ali, do you still need to speak? You've got your hand.
Yes, thank you, Jane. Through you, Chairman, just to pick up on a comment made by Councillor Ahmed in regards to dumping at the site. I don't think this planning permission should be the proviso for dumping to stop. With respect, it's for the landowner to take responsibility and essentially clean up the land, regardless of this planning permission being successful or not. So I don't agree that this planning permission, or the granting of this planning permission or outline permission as it is, would then lead to the non-dumping of waste on the land. And in fact, the current dump that's on the land belongs to the original property that was there when it got burnt down. So I'm sorry, I simply don't accept this notion that, you know, planning permission is going to see a brighter future for this land, because the land's been left in its state even prior to the old spiritualist church being burnt down for decades. So you know, I'm totally against this notion that's sort of being portrayed for this committee, and again, I stand by my initial comments in supporting Councillor Adam. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Alex, do you still need to speak? Got your hand up.
No, I've spoken, and it would need to be referred to Policy and Resources Committee.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Aslam is next to speak.
Councillor Aslam. He might be muted.
He's muted, yeah.
Councillor Aslam.
Should we go to Councillor Nadeem Ahmed whilst we wait then, please?
Yeah. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed, you want to come back in?
Yes, I mean, my also concern, which is brought by the council planning officer who's at the meeting today, Alex, is I don't believe there's sufficient reasons for us to refuse it, and the implications of possibly significant costs against the council are there and clear in my view. And in terms of, sorry, I didn't want to sound like I'm maybe misleading the committee, but when I mentioned the point about the people dumping, I mean, we've got a site where it's not nice. If I was a resident living across the road, I wouldn't want to live there. And so we've got this gentleman who's come up with something positive. He wants to develop the site, and I think we should be backing it so we can deal with the problems on the site. So, like I said, I'll be supporting this application for approval if I have a seconder.
Councillor Aslam, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, I've unmute. I've got it off the mute now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Chairman?
Yeah.
Right then. By the day this building got burned down, I've been requesting this site was like, really, I'm very happy with this application. Someone wants to come in and spend a lot of money to improve it, build something, and I will second Councillor Nadeem. And the quicker this building can be put up, and the better it will be for the area.
So you're
seconding Nadeem Ahmed.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. So we have two proposals now. And we'll take the amendment first, which is Councillor Nadeem Ahmed. I'm sorry, I'm just doing some paperwork at the same time. Who's proposing and seconding? Just bear with me 1 second, please. And right, okay, so we're going to vote on Councillor Nadeem Ahmed's proposal to approve this application. So I'm gonna call your names out. First of all, I've got Councillor George Adam.
Against?
Against. Just 1 second, a little bit slow. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
For.
Councillor Zafar Ali.
Against.
Councillor Mohammed Ahmed.
Against?
Councillor Muhammad Aslam.
For.
Councillor Cooney, if he's joined us. No.
Yes, he is there. Councillor Cooney, can you unmute, please?
Councillor Cooney. Councillor Cooney.
He's in attendance, but can you hear us, Councillor Cooney? We're trying to get in touch with him now, so.
Right. Okay. I'll come back to him.
Yeah.
Councillor Muhammad Iqbal.
Against.
Councillor Neil McGovern.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Saqib. I'm in favour as well, so 4. Councillor Yvonne Tennant.
Against.
And Councillor Sheila Wicks.
I don't think she's with us, or is she?
No.
Oh, Councillor Wicks, can you unmute? I don't know if she can hear us either. We'll get someone to ring her as well.
Right. Councillor Cooney, can you hear us? Councillor Cooney?
Right. Okay.
Jane?
Yeah, I can't get any response from Councillor Cooney or Councillor Sheila Wicks.
Can I ask Julie to guide us whether we take that as abstaining or not present? Not present.
I think we'll have to say we can't get in contact with them, that they're not present.
Right, okay. And Sheila Wicks not present and not present. Right, okay. So I have 4 in favour and 5 against. So to approve this application, obviously, that was Councillor Nadeem Ahmed's proposal is not gone through. Julie, do I need to take a vote on the approval, or this was just a straightforward vote, wasn't it, Julie? Or do I need to go for a...
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear all that you said. It broke up a bit. Jane, did you hear?
Not very well, no. Can you repeat, please, Councillor Saqib?
Yeah, we obviously voted on Councillor Nadeem Ahmed's proposal to approve this application, and that has fallen, that there are more against the application and not against the proposal than those in favour. And do I need to take another vote for Councillor George Adams' proposal to refuse it, or can we just take that as a done dusted voting? So it's just a straightforward vote, isn't it?
We should really, I think, be voting because you were, excuse me, because people were voting for one thing, that they need to be actually voting properly against an amendment.
Okay. So I'll take now vote on Councillor George Adams' proposal to refuse, which has been seconded by Mr. Zafar Ali. Yeah. So George, it's your proposal to refuse the application. Can I have a vote, please? So this is for refusal. Yeah. Just 1 second, please. We will go 4. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed,
Against?
Councillor Zafar Ali,
For.
Councillor Mohammed Ahmed,
For.
Councillor Mohammed Aslam,
Against.
Councillor Cooney, if you can hear me.
Against.
Against. Did I hear that right? Against. Councillor Cooney,
Against.
thank you. Councillor Mohammed Iqbal,
For.
Councillor Neil McGovern, Councillor McGovern, Councillor Neil McGovern, can you hear me?
I think he's dropped out again. He's having problems connecting.
Right, okay. I'll come back. Myself, Mohammed Saqib, I'm for. Councillor Yvonne Tennant,
I've forgotten what we're voting for now. Trying to voting for George's
Refuse.
George,
proposed. Yeah, so for.
Councillor Sheila Witt,
For.
for. Thank you, Sheila. And I'll come back to Councillor McGovern, if you can hear me. No, I
No,
can't.
no response.
No,
Chairman,
sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I've just had a message from Councillor McGowan saying he's having connection problems and he's given up.
he's given us. Okay, that's fine.
It keeps breaking up, he's saying, so.
No problem. That's fine. So, Jane, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in support of Councillor George Adams' proposal, and 3 councillors against Councillor George Adams' proposal. So, Councillor George Adams' proposal to refuse the application is carried. Is that okay, Jane?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It will get referred to, subject to legal's agreement, referred to policy and resources.
Okay, thank you. Now we move on to second application, and that is at 2 to 4 Woodland Street, Southfield. Erection of a single-story rear extension with roof garden above. I do have the agent with us as well, but I don't think he's going to speak. If members want to ask any questions, you can ask him. He can hear you. Since this is imperative vote, can I ask Councillor Iqbal to take lead on this?
Yeah, Chairman, I've read the report and obviously know the site quite well. I mean, I think this is an innovative application that normally we just get single-story extensions. But somebody to have a roof garden, I think, is something that is very green and very environmentally friendly and to be welcome. So I'll move that we approve the application.
And as I'm a second councillor from this ward, I'll second that from the chair. Anybody else want to speak? Jane, I have Nadeem Ahmed with raised hand.
Yep, Councillor Ahmed, yeah.
Please.
Yeah, yes, I'm happy with the single-story extension itself. No issues regarding that, as the report highlights. And we have other various properties in and around the area with single-story extensions. So no issues there. But what I do have an issue is with regards to the garden area and the issues that raises itself in terms of the privacy issues and the residential amenity factor. and the impact that will have on the neighbouring properties. In my view, it doesn't comply with the policies, ENV 3, I think it's 2 and 3, and for that reason, one and 2, sorry, ENV 1 and ENV 2, because it doesn't bring any improvement to the area. Yes, it is something which is, you could perhaps say, unique and different, and it would be fantastic for the actual occupants themselves. But the impact that will have on the neighbours in terms of overlooking, I think is a major factor. The report does mention that there is some sort of screening that will be involved and is part of the application. But I don't believe that screening is sufficient for us to approve it. Because if you look on page 16 in terms of where the property is located on the corner, and the impact it will have on the properties numbered 221 along that block there up to 233, and the properties directly at the rear of the property itself, I think the impact it will have on a number of properties, not just a single property, but a number of properties, I think is totally unfair on the other residents who live there. So I cannot support this application as it is, so I will move refusal.
Anybody else? Yeah.
We've got Councillor Aslam.
Yeah, I will second Councillor Nadeem, and I am very well aware about the area. And what I had to say, Nadeem already said them words. They will impact on the, around that area. There's no other houses, no single story. I'm in favour of it. We're not having an open space on the. It'll look hard anyway. So I'll second Nadeem's proposal.
Okay, Chair, we've now got Alex who wants to speak.
Yes, Alex, please.
Through you, Chairman. If the committee is minded to approve this application, I'd suggest it be made clear that a condition should be added that the screen fencing is erected before the garden is used and retained thereafter.
Yeah. Can I also clarify that the fencing panels they've proposed are 6 foot high? Right?
Yes, they are 1.8 meters. Yes, 6.
1.8. Yeah. So we've got obviously Councillor Nadeem Ahmed's proposal to refuse it, seconded by Councillor Mohammed Aslam, and also we have a proposal from Councillor Iqbal to approve, and from me to second. Since which one, Julie, can I seek clarification? Which one do we take first? Because obviously it's down for refusal. So obviously we're going away from the agenda, and that is for approval. So do we take Councillor Iqbal's proposal first?
Yeah, the move to approve is an alternative proposal to the officers. So I think we would normally go with that one first.
Right, okay. We're going with Councillor.
Can I just speak?
Yeah.
I think it's the amendment, isn't it?
Chairman, in terms of Alex's suggestion, I'm happy to accept that as a condition as part of the approval if it's carried. But can I just comment on what Councillor Ahmed said and Councillor Aslam? In terms of something being unique, this area committee has a proud reputation of being unique. So if we're always going to support the standard status quo, then what's the purpose of councillors actually being sat on this committee? Secondly, in terms of a single-storey extension, what my colleagues need to realise is that a single-storey extension will have a roof on it as well. So in terms of the garden space difference to a pitch, there's not going to be much change. But as I come back to earlier, in terms of the effect on the neighbours, this is a corner property. There's 2 properties in one here. Number 221 Leeds Road is an empty property, has been empty for 20 years. and then there's a back street that separates these particular properties. So I don't think there will be that much of an impact. Clearly, the 45 degrees route angle has been talked about by the officers, which is a favourite one for officers when they want to recommend refusal. That's been overcome here. So I would urge colleagues to support my recommendation of approval, subject to the additional condition that Alex has suggested.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Well, so I'll go for again.
We should go with the amendment first.
Which is Councillor Nadeem Ahmed's proposal.
Yeah, we should go with that one first.
Okay, that's fine. So we're going with Councillor Nadeem Ahmed's proposal to refuse the application. Can I take vote from yourself, George, Councillor George Adam?
Against.
Against. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed?
For.
Councillor Zafar Ali?
Against.
Councillor Muhammad Amir?
Against.
Councillor Muhammad Aslam? Councillor Aslam?
Yeah, for.
Councillor Cooney?
For.
Iqbal?
Against.
Councillor Mohammed Saqib? Against. Councillor Yvonne Tennant? Councillor Yvonne Tennant?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Sheila Wicks?
For.
Four. Right. Okay, Jane, I have 4 in favor of refusal and 6 against.
Yeah, that's fine.
So not carried. Yeah. Okay. Just 1 second. Then we go back to Councillor Iqbal's proposal to approve. Councillor George Adam, can I have your vote, please?
For.
For. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
Against.
Councillor Zafar Ali.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Amir.
For.
Councillor Muhammad Aslam.
Against.
Councillor Cooney.
Against.
Councillor Muhammad Iqbal.
For.
Councillor Muhammad Saqib. That's me. 4. And then I have Councillor Yvonne Tennant.
For.
And Councillor Sheila Wicks.
Against.
Against. So we have 6 in favor of approving this application and 4 against, and 5 are not present. So that is carried. Are we okay with that, Jane? Have we got
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. So
Yeah.
this application is approved. Just 1 second. Let me just move my paperwork here. We move on to third application in front of us. It is for demolition of barn and stables and erection of an agriculture storage and livestock building in field 1246 Southfield Lane, Southfield.
Hello.
Is that
Sorry. Right.
Sheila?
I've only just managed to unmute it. Right.
Sheila, we can hear you.
Oh, right. I'll just mute it then. Right.
Sheila, you're not muted. Thank you. Right. Okay. Can I have someone from Southfield Ward?
Councillor, you've got 4 speakers on this item.
Sorry, thank you very much for that. Yes, I have 4 speakers, and first speaker we've got is Georgina Wager, that's applicant. Then we've got Mr. Andy Hawthorne, Paul Rigby, and Tim Buchanan. Can I take? Do we know? Do we have all of them with us? Jane?
Yes, we do.
Okay then. Can I take first speaker then? Georgina?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this afternoon. I purchased my field back in 2010 with 3 stables already present on the site. We immediately introduced sheep onto the land in order to restore the ground back to good grazing land as the ground has started to revert back to moor. We have always rented the field in front of our property owned by Tim Buchanan. We have also, when required, rented further land down at Pig Hole from owner John Preston and down at Southfield from Caroline Lukowski. We have in the last 6 years been moving into rearing rare breed Gotland sheep, which are more valuable for their wool than their meat. Gotlands produce a beautiful fleece which is highly sought after for crafting and producing yarn. We required dry space for storing hay, lambing and winter housing, as Gotlands ideally require shearing twice a year. The most cost-effective solution at the time was the containers and to create a lean-to barn in between. As it stands, there is nothing in our field which is of a permanent structure. Everything is freestanding, and therefore the containers are not breaking any legal requirements. I also have a letter from Pendle Council clearly stating that there is no evidence of any breach of planning control. I can appreciate the buildings are not attractive, but they do serve a purpose, and now we would like to replace them with something more practical and beneficial to the welfare of our livestock. The new construction would also be more environmentally friendly, as it would mean a tractor can drive straight into the building and stack hay efficiently. This would result in requiring less visits from a tractor in the winter months, which inevitably has an impact on the land. Finally, a purpose-built barn would be visibly more appealing and in keeping within a conservation area. There are numerous other buildings in the area of a very similar design. In fact, in 2018, planning permission was granted for a equestrian barn in the adjoining field. This was granted last year and doesn't impact on the conservation area or the historic Grade 2 listed building, which is situated less than 50 yards away. With regards to the distance and noise of our proposed building, the rule that animals must be 400 metres away from residential dwellings only applies to pigs and cattle, not sheep. My existing buildings and sheep were actually there before any of the objectors even purchased or rented their property in the Catlow area. Previously to my sheep being in the field in front of Catlow Row, pigs were kept less than 6 metres from the front doors of the residential dwellings. I also ask why, if one has issues with the noise made by farm animals, then why would you move to the countryside in the first place? At present, we do have a retired horse on the site. Winston is 28 years of age, and if permission is granted, may not even still be with us when it comes to erecting this building. If, however, he is, I am more than happy to address this issue required at the time and the relevant fees that this will incur. At this moment in time, my priority is to replace what we have with a purpose-built livestock building. A point has been raised about a generator. I don't believe we have mentioned a generator anywhere in our application or ever needed to use one. Our own property is the nearest to this building, and I cannot see why we would want to make a noise and impact for anyone, including ourselves. The proposed building is no larger than the existing construction it is to replace. I hope you view my proposal application as an improvement for animal welfare and the conservation area of Catlow. Many thanks.
Thank you for that. Can we have the second speaker, Mr. Andy Hawthorne?
Hello, yeah. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
go for it, Andy.
Really, I just want to back up as the agent. I want to back up on the planning side. And first of all, it's clear that the application satisfies all the relevant planning conditions, including the NPPF. It's an agricultural building on agricultural land. In terms of design and impact, it is typical of this type of building, similar to many that have been granted permission elsewhere. I actually think that Georgine is being a bit harsh on herself, saying it's not an attractive building. I think it's, as a designer, I think it is. But and sort of the scale is good. It's not that close to residential buildings that would affect it. Again, Georgina mentioned. There aren't any traffic issues. The highways is fine. There's no car parking issue attached to this one. And I do think, more importantly, it's certainly animal welfare. They do these specialist filtering sheep, and as the supporting letter from the vets themselves said, that this sort of facility is necessary to carry out the correct procedures in looking after animals of this nature. So, in terms of planning, I really cannot see why you may find a reason to object. So I hope that you'll adhere to that and give it full approval.
All right, thank you very much for that. Third speaker we've got is Mr. Paul Rigby. Paul? Then is Paul with us?
I'm just checking.
I have two mute buttons. That's the problem. We're in the room. Okay, so I'm Paul. I'm one of the residents up at Catlow who's written an objection letter. I'd just like to thank the chair, the committee members and the officers for taking the time to consider the comments of this application, particularly for noting the possibility of this application trying to sneak in usage for equestrian purposes by the back door at a substantially lower fee paid to the council, which is £96 compared to £1,400. I take Georgina's comments about the horses. I don't think that does explain why the elevation facing the cottages does resemble the stables with stable doors at the moment. I note the case officer has recommended that a condition to limit the usage to which this is used is going to be to what it's actually applied for, and I'm grateful for that. I have included 3 photos that were with my original application that do help illustrate some of the points I'm making. Today, I'm wanting to highlight 2 issues that, disappointingly, I don't feel the case officer's addressed in his report. Firstly, the current site has been developed without planning permission. I'd highlight 3 pieces from the officer's report regarding that. Number 1, relevant planning history, none. As he says, there are no applications regarding this. Were they temporary buildings, as I understand it, they're obliged to be able to be moved and moved within a 4-year period, e.g. stables on skis, none of which has happened. Number 2, the application site is agricultural land with a group of buildings consisting of stables, shipping containers and a makeshift corrugated sheep barn between. The proposed development is the demolition of the existing buildings and their replacement. I don't think that's in dispute. 3, public response. The existing buildings are unauthorised. The approval of this application will be seen to reward unauthorised development. The site has a history of circumventing the planning system, and this may be a further attempt to do that. Again, I'm grateful that the officers made these comments, but I see no indication that these issues have been addressed, which is at the least disappointing. Do any of the members have access to the images that I've sent out?
Jen?
Everything was emailed around to members. You may or may not have viewed your emails today, but they have been sent out to you.
Chair, it's 3 simple pictures. If you're happy for me to do so, I can share that to people's screens through Teams.
You can show it on your screen if you want. I don't know whether we'll be able to see it or not. Go for it.
Should be. Thank you. Just bear with me. Okay, hopefully you can see that. So, this image shows the previously undeveloped field in the conservation area, whereas image 2 shows the current development in the blue outline on the left. Please note the size of the proposed site highlighted by the outline in blue. This is not an outline I've imposed. This is taken from the application site plan. It's actually larger than the whole of the 6 houses at Catlow Row, which is the blue outline on the right. So it's not a small proposal, and it's quite close to them. I can foresee that justification may be offered that the replacement buildings could be suggested to be as an improvement to the current, or that the current buildings have been in situ for longer than 4 years. That issue was raised and reported inside that time, but Pendle failed to take any action. But no matter what excuses are offered, to grant permission for further development now would undeniably be seen to reward and even encourage illegal planning development within the borough. Such action would lay a clear path for any who would follow, that you can build, even in the conservation area, without permission, wait it out, then apply to update with what's allegedly an improved development. Unfortunately, Pendle already has a reputation on social media for awarding illegal developments, the most obvious in recent memory being that at St Paul's Road. Should this application be granted, it would only further tarnish that reputation. I ask that the committee reject this application to avoid that outcome, or be judged to fail to have taken that opportunity to deal with these issues once again. The second matter is the proximity of the building to the 6 residential properties of Catlow Row, as well as the nearby Catlow House and other residential dwellings in Catlow. The officer's report states that the proposed building will be used to house up to 100 sheep during winter. It also notes the site is roughly only 55 metres from the nearest residential properties. Again, no image 2, the large scale of the property and the proximity to the cottages. Until recently, agricultural buildings were not permitted housing farm animals within 400 metres of residential properties. Though planning law has now allowed for applications like this, such applications usually pay heed to the impact on the residential properties and their occupants, and when they are granted permission, it is usually with conditions to mitigate for such impact. There is no indication on the application or the office report that any such consideration or conditions appear to have been taken here. Though those residences lie neighbouring agricultural land, the noise impact of 100 sheep roaming freely over a 15-acre field, as they are currently, would be of an entirely different magnitude compared to 100 sheep continually enclosed for the winter months, as the proposal says, in a building only 55 metres from your front door or bedroom. If the committee is not inclined to reject the application on these grounds, thus leaving the residents to suffer the personal impact of this proposed change, then I would ask that they at least condition any permission with the obligation to take remedial action to mitigate for the potential noise nuisance. Thank you. Oh, just one small addition is regarding parking. Currently, the users of the site park illegally on the footpath, as illustrated by figure 3, outside their property. I know that officers have previously complained that enforcement issues can be difficult around footpath obstructions. Well, this is a perfect opportunity to make potential process less difficult. I would suggest that the committee simply condition the application that any parking must be approved for and used on the application site, not the footpath. Thus, there is an easy alternative for the applicant, who could surely have no complaint unless they were planning to park on the public footpath, and were they to fail to do so, they will be in breach of their permission, thus making enforcement much easier. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much for that, Paul.
No problem.
Last speaker we've got is Mr. Tim Buchanan, and he's speaking in favour of the application.
Thank you, Councillor. Good afternoon, councillors, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address this meeting. My name is Tim Buchanan. Along with my family, we live on Catlow Court. From our house, we can see the proposed development site, both from the house and the garden as well. In addition, and this is the prime reason I'm speaking today, is that we own the adjoining field which overlooks the proposed demolition of the existing barn and the erection of the new agricultural building. The new building is literally on the other side of a dry stone wall which separates the fields. We have therefore taken a personal interest in the plans submitted to the planning department and have spoken to the owners on several occasions to verify our understanding of these proposals. Having spoken to them, we understand that the personal reasons for the development, the benefits to the environment and livestock, the significantly improved visual outlook for neighbours overlooking the proposed new barn, which include ourselves, and members of the public either walking down an adjacent lane or the public footpath across both fields. The proposal also states that the new building will use natural materials which are fully appropriate for this rural setting. Councillors, I know the owners are creating better facilities to manage their livestock, including, as we've heard, rare breeds of Gotland sheep, and are creating a well thought out modern means to manage the welfare of the sheep, while at the same time improving the environment and maintaining the character of the area. The improved visual impact of the development will benefit everyone. As an example, around 18 months ago, the planning department approved another large stable owned by Paul Rigby, who's just spoken to the meeting. Again, this adjoins our field, and it's 400 metres from the proposed new development. There were no objections from anybody. The plans were approved and the stables are built. And we can see from that development how good planning and the use of the correct materials can benefit the area. Having seen the plans for the new development, my assumptions are that the policies and principles outlined by our planning department of the proposed development will be exactly the same. So I can't understand why anybody, particularly Paul, would object. At a meeting of this committee a few months ago, you councillors unanimously approved the diversion of a footpath in the same area, and one of the comments received from Councillor Zafar Ali at the meeting was that the residents of Catlow stick together. As you can see from the 14 supporting documents on the portal, many of the residents overlooking the proposed development have taken the time to give a positive response again. The proposal will benefit neighbours, both overlooking the development and ourselves as owners of the adjoining field, general public, livestock and the environment in general. We fully support it. The planning department are recommending that you approve the proposal, and I hope you'll get support this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I see two people have raised their hands. Sorry, I can't see you who you are. So, Jane.
We'll go with Alex first.
Alex.
Through you, Chair, I just want to address the comments of Mr. Rigby. First of all, in relation to the unauthorised buildings on the site, they were investigated some time ago, and there was a decision made by the planning department that it wasn't expedient to take action against the unauthorised structures. They will, over the course of time, either become or have already become lawful by being there for over 4 years. And we cannot make a punitive planning decision on the basis that unlawful development has been carried out on the site before. We need to determine this application on its own merits. In relation to the 400-metre distance that was mentioned, that isn't in relation to planning applications. That's only in relation to the permitted development allowances for agricultural developments. In the permitted development regulations, it restricts permitted development within 400 metres of a dwelling for livestock buildings. That's only in relation as to whether or not it needs full planning permission. In terms of a full planning application, it's on a case-by-case basis. We tend to go by a rule of thumb of, depending on the intensity, around 15 metres is an adequate spacing distance. So 55 metres is more than adequate for a livestock building of this type. And in terms of the parking on the public footpath, that's a separate matter. It's not something that can be controlled within the conditions of the planning permission. It would, if it's causing an obstruction to the footpath, that's an offence in itself, and that's something that can be tackled under other legislation. So we could not attach a planning condition in relation to that, and we could not take that into account in determining the application. Thank you.
Anybody else?
We've got Councillor Aslam.
Councillor Aslam.
Councillor Aslam, you're muted. think he's on hold there. Can we go to Councillor Nadeem Ahmed then, please?
Councillor Nadeem Ahmed, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I had to disappear. I've had some technical problems, but I just caught the back end of the last speaker. So I'm grateful to all the speakers who have taken the effort and time to speak, not just on this application, but the other planning applications before us this afternoon. Just a quick question. I'm not sure if somebody could answer this. There's been some concern, which you mentioned in the report, about the use of the premises for something which possibly doesn't have planning permission, in terms of using it because it resembles stables. Am I correct? Can I ask through you, Mr. Chairman, to the question of the planning officer? This is conditioned in, I understand, into if we do decide to approve this application, it's going to be conditioned in that this site can only be used for agricultural purposes and no other purpose. Can I just seek an answer to that question before I speak further?
Alex?
Yes, that we are recommending a condition. That would be the case anyway. However, just for clarity, we are recommending a condition that makes it clear that this is only for agricultural use. If the landowner were to, in the future, wish to apply for an equine use on the site, that would need a separate planning application.
Thank you, Alex, for that. I think that helps me make my decision, because I was a bit undecided when I've read through the report, I've heard the comments and all the extra information which we've had on this application. So I was a bit undecided as to which way I would go. But I think it's helped me with that comment, and I'm happy to see this application approved, because I don't see any grounds strong enough that we can refuse it. And I think it speaks volumes when neighbours are supporting the application and saying it's going to benefit them. There's no grounds of refusal in terms of policy. So, like I said, happy to see this approved. Thank you.
Councillor Yvonne Tennant, do you want to come in, being a ward councillor?
Hello. Councillor Wicks and myself went up and did a site visit earlier this year before, it was just before lockdown happened. Looking at the papers, residents' concerns have been taken on board in what is a very balanced report, which has come from officers, and conditions in there are valid. So, I mean, I've got absolutely no objections to this development whatsoever.
So, can I just ask, Jeff, is there anybody else to speak?
Nobody's indicated anything, no, not at the moment. Right. Councillor Sakib, we can't see you at the moment. Is your camera off?
Could I speak, please?
Oh, Councillor Wicks.
Councillor Wicks, I wanted to speak on this if I could.
Yes, please. Go on, Sheila.
Should I speak now? Yes, I went with Yvonne for the site visit. We had a good look at it and we were both happy with the planning application as it stands. So I'll be voting in favour of it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
Thank you, Sheila. Can I just clarify, Councillor Nadeem Ahmed, did you propose to approve this application?
Yes, I'll move that. Yeah.
Right, okay. And Yvonne, are you going to second it?
Yes, I'll second it.
Right, okay then. Anybody else to speak? No? I'll go straight to the vote then. Councillor George Adam, can I have your vote, please? That is to approve this application.
Yeah, for approval, yeah.
Yes, for. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
For.
Councillor Zafar Ali.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Ahmed.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Aslam.
For.
Councillor Cooney,
4,
Councillor Mohammed Iqbal,
4,
Councillor Mohammed Saqib, 4, Councillor Yvonne Tennant,
4,
and Councillor Sheila Wiggs.
4,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got 10 votes for this approval, so that is unanimous. Everybody's in favor, so that is carried. So that's this application is approved. Bear with me 1 second, please. So, Councillor Dean and Councillor Yvonne Tennant. I have to do some paperwork here, so I'm just writing that down. Okay. That is approved. Now we move on to next application, which is at 179 Chapel House Road, Nelson, and that is for erection of dormer windows to front and rear roof slopes. Can I have someone from Clover Hill, please? Oh yes, I've been advised if this application is approved, it will go to Policy and Resources. Can I have somebody from that area, please?
Yes, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Zafar Ali. I am in favour of this application. Generally, the approach of this committee has been to approve dormer developments. In terms of the report, it's a helpful report, in particular on page 23, as it sets out that the proposed development does not have any unacceptable residential amenity issues. There aren't any objections from any of the neighbours or highways. So I think, as per previous applications that have come, many a dozen to this committee for dormers, I'd be asking for a seconder, along myself, proposing to accept this application to approve. Application,
okay.
Chairman.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor George Adam, you live very close to this property, not far from there. You have say?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to support Councillor Ali. We approve the dormers.
Right.
The front dormer should have a pitched roof.
Yeah. So we can. Anybody else want to speak? I see 4 people raise their hands. Jane, please help.
Chairman, if you've got Alex next.
Alex, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I just need to make it clear that this application has previously been refused and by the council for a similar development. The development that was refused was for a pitched roof dormer. This is now for a flat roof dormer, which would be more impactful in terms of visual amenity than the application that was previously refused by the council. Therefore, a decision to approve the application would be inconsistent with that decision. That would be a potential case of maladministration by the council, which could result in a risk of costs. And therefore, this application would be subject to consultation with our legal section referred to Policy and Resources Committee, if it's to be approved.
Yeah, if I may say so, this application is different from the last application, and this council does not have any policy on dormers. So I think this application should be dealt with as it is, not have any relationship to the previous application. Alex, please, you raised your hand.
Chairman, this application, although there is a difference to the application that was previously refused, which was a pitched roof dormer, this is a flat roof dormer, which is more impactful rather than less impactful than the previous refused decision. So in that circumstance, it is potentially a case of maladministration because the council has already made a decision on a very similar application that would have less impact than this would.
I personally feel there is a case anyway if we don't give him planning permission, because we give planning permission to every single person who apply for dormers. So in my opinion, to be honest with you, he's got a case against us in the first place. But anyway, we've got a proposal to approve this application, seconded by Councillor George Adam, proposed by Councillor Zafar Ali.
Chairman, you've got two speakers still, Councillor Tennant and Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
Whoever was first. Tennant, Councillor Tennant, please.
I just realised I had my hand up.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Councillor Ahmed then.
Thank you. Yeah, just trying to get an understanding, Mr. Chairman. This application, a application for dormer windows was submitted to Pendle Council, which was refused. That was for a pitched roof. Now we've got a flat dormer. On what basis was the initial application refused? Can I just ask that question through you, Mr. Chairman? Question for Alex, really, if you can.
Through you, Chair. Yes, that application was refused on the same basis as this is recommended for refusal. So it was exactly the same basis.
Right, thank you. I mean, in terms of dormer windows, dormers themselves, we've had applications previously before the area committee where there haven't been any similar dormers on a particular block, and I've consistently throughout the years have supported such application. I personally, I would rather see a pitched roof. I've been through the process myself. I would personally like to see a pitched roof rather than a flat roof. But in terms of just the materials and the colouring, I think you're quite happy with that, aren't you, Alex? The materials and the colouring. It's just is it because there's no other dormers on that particular block? That's the reason, and the previous decision.
Yes, that's the case. It's the principle of a front dormer window in that block which has no others, and the design in terms of it being a flat roof dormer as well. However, the previous application was a dormer and that was refused.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Anybody else? No? I'll go straight to the vote then. Right, and this is to approve this application, even though it will go to Policy and Resources, but this is for approval. Councillor George Adam.
4.
4. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
4.
Councillor Zafar Ali.
4.
Councillor Mohammed Ahmed.
4.
Councillor Mohammed Aslam.
4.
Councillor Cooney. Councillor Cooney. Councillor Cooney.
No, Councillor Cooney is no longer with us at the minute.
So not present. Just 1 second. Not present. Reedley Henson is not present. Councillor Muhammad Iqbal.
4.
Councillor Asjad is not present. Councillor Neil McGovern is not present. Councillor Mohammed Saqib. 4. Kath Shaw is not with us. And Councillor Yvonne Tennant.
4.
And Councillor Sheila Wiggs. Councillor Wiggs.
Councillor Wiggs, you need to
She's still muted.
4.
Thank you. That is unanimous. So we've got 6 not present, and that leaves us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all in favor of approving this application. Please do understand this will go to Policy and Resources Committee. Jen, do we know when that meeting will be held?
It's the 25th of June, Chairman.
25th of June this year, 2020. Thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Will you excuse me for a few minutes? My little dog wants his dinner.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay then. It's not going to take us long, George, if you want to stay with us, you know. Next application we've got front of us is for change of use from car sales to car valeting business on Scotland Road, 148 and 150. Can I just remind Councillor Aslam, because he came late, if he wants to declare interest or whatever. Jen?
Yeah, I'd like to declare this is my sister's house, relative house. So I am declaring my interest in 152 Scotland Road, 154 and 156.
Right, okay. Since this is in Bradley Ward, can I ask Councillor Iqbal to take lead on this, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Can I just clarify before I speak that in terms of Councillor Aslam's interest, is it prejudicial or non-prejudicial?
Councillor Aslam?
Can you repeat that again?
Is your interest prejudicial or non-prejudicial?
It's non-prejudicial.
Okay, that's fine. Right, Chairman, thanks for bringing me into speak on it. So, I mean, I am aware of this site and I've seen it for a significant number of years prior to the current application. It used to be a car sales pitch for a good 25, 30 years. And obviously, the way the trade has gone in car sales, the car sales is no longer in place. But we've got an application for a car valeting business with a canopy with the walls on the south and east boundaries. Now, I've had a read of the report, and in particular, I raised an issue with the planning officer this morning, for which I'm grateful he responded, around the highways issues. The County Council highways, saying that there's a poor road safety record on Scotland Road in the area around the site with several collisions. I've been on the County Council's Mario website, and if members have or haven't, they can check that outside this particular development, there is no reported collisions from the County Council. The collisions, Scotland Road, as people know, is a very long road. It starts in the town centre and goes all the way down to Nelson Court College. And there are accident reports on Scotland Road over the last 2 or 3 years, but nowhere near this particular site. In terms of the timing, Chairman, the applicant's asking for 8 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. I'm going to move that we approve the application with a condition that restricts the time from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. And I don't think anybody needs the car valeting in somewhere after 8 o'clock in the evening. But overall, looking at the report, knowing the site quite comprehensively as I do, I will move that we approve the application. Would ask all members to support it.
And I'll that from the chair. Jen, is there anybody else?
Yes, Alex is next.
Alex?
Chairman, I would just recommend a couple of conditions to the committee if they are minded to refuse it, to approve it. For the details of the colour and finish of the boundary walls to be agreed, and for a scheme for the disposal of foul and surface water, including oil interceptors, and a condition to require that the car parking and manoeuvring areas are set out in accordance with the plans before the use commences.
Councillor Iqbal, do you want to come back in?
I will, Chairman. In terms of the conditions, I mean, the issue around the boundary walls, fine, happy to accept that. In terms of the markings out, happy to accept that. In terms of the water recourse, I mean, I'm aware and I've checked again with the county council, that there is a water gully in the site which will sort the discharge out. But rather than accepting as a condition, clearly that's for the Environment Agency to take up with the applicant directly if they feel that he's discharging where he shouldn't be. So, and I don't think we can enforce that as a council. So I'm happy to accept the conditions that Alex has set out, bar the water discharge thing, and that can be dealt with elsewhere, following my conversation with the county council engineers this morning.
Yeah, Alex?
My view is that without that condition, this application, if it's to be refused, would have to be referred to Policy and Resources Committee. It is necessary to have a condition to control the discharge of water from the site, given the type of use.
Okay, Chairman, I assume Alex meant that if it's approved, it'll go to Policy and Resources. Because if it was refused, it'll go to Policy and Resources. But if that's the case, then I'm happy to accept what Alex is saying, as I always do.
Right, okay. Anybody else wants to speak on this application?
Well, I want to speak.
Hi, I'd like to speak. If you can hear me.
Yes.
Well, I was just at Schofield's Butchers this morning, which is directly adjacent to this car wash. And he was telling me that neighbours have already complained because they've had a trial run and complained about the wrong sort of people gathering at night and loud music being played while the thing was in operation. Also, regarding the non-road accidents in that area, Schofields tells me that it's almost a monthly occurrence outside his shop where the roundabout is that leads on to Clayton Street. So we're talking 25 feet away, so you couldn't get much nearer. But while I was there, I did notice that they've got fancy new signage up, and it states that the hours of opening, obviously it's all been made and fastened to the wall, and it states that the hours of opening are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. during weekdays, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. on a Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Sunday. So it looks like it's a fait accompli, this thing. They've already got the boards up, they've had a dummy run, and well, it looks like they've already decided that it's approved. Anyway, that's my comment. Thank you.
And anybody else?
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah, Councillor Aslam.
Right. I mean, I agree with the planning officer and putting a recommendation as a refusal. And there's a lot of issues. All the residents are against this approval. As looking at it, there's no parking. There's only a small site. If 2 or 3 cars out, and the entrance, exit and entrance is the same place. And there's another roundabout there. So I don't know. I mean, how the hell can we pass this? It's a dangerous place. There'll be a lot of kiosks on Scotland Road with cars waiting to go inside for a car wash. And looking at the report is very clear from the highways and everywhere that it should be refused. It's not the right place for this site, a car wash. Thank you.
Anybody else? Jen?
Chairman, I'd like to.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Councillor Deeman.
Yeah, can I just clarify what's going on with this application? Just a couple of questions. Is this a retrospective application? Because from what Neil's saying, it's got the signs up, it's already operational. Is that correct?
If I may say so. This application came to me for approval, and because we obviously have a different delegated schemes now, so if 3 councillors, since we have 3 councillors in this ward, if 2 councillors approve it, then it would have been approved, and it was approved, but somehow for some reasons, which is beyond my understanding as well, it's been brought to the committee, and I have not been honestly informed as well, Councillor Deeman.
Chairman, sorry for interrupting, but it says in the report it was called in by Councillor Iqbal. That's what it says on page 25. Whether that's correct or not, that's what it says.
No, I've no idea. What I can say is it was down for all the applications are down for delegated scheme now, and because we weren't having any meetings. So depending on out of 3 councillors, if 2 voted in favour, it would have been approved, and it was approved. It's beyond my understanding why it actually come to this committee. So I don't know.
It's been called in, Chair.
Yeah.
It's been called in.
Yeah.
That's why we're discussing it.
Yeah, surely.
Yeah, yeah. And so can I just continue? So
yeah,
is it that I've not had the answer? Is it a retrospective application? Has it been approved?
No, it has not been approved. It has not been approved.
But from what Neil's saying, the sign's up, and it seems like it's already been running. I'm baffled. I don't know. It just, or the planning officers, can they assist?
Alex?
Through you, Chair. In terms of whether or not it's a retrospective application, it's part retrospective. Part of the development has been built in terms of the canopy. As far as I understand, although obviously working from home, I don't view the site every day. As far as I understand, the use isn't in operation yet. So in terms of the advertisements that may have been put up, there is an application in for advertisement consent, which is ready to go as a delegated decision as soon as this application is determined. So on the 2 applications can be determined in tandem. So there's not an issue from our point of view at the moment with the signage being up, and that doesn't mean that the use is in operation. And in terms of the delegation of this application, we do have a revised scheme of delegation where some applications that would otherwise have needed to go to committee can be determined under delegated powers. We did start the process of determining this application under those delegated powers, but a decision was taken once we had the committees in place to put this application onto the committee instead. It was initially called in by Councillor Iqbal early on in the process, and that's along with the objections to it, the reason why it needs to be determined by committee.
Can I continue, Mr. Chairman? Just a follow-up question in terms of the hours of operation. On page 25, the report sets out the hours of operation, 8 o'clock till 5:30 on weekdays, and 9 o'clock till 1 o'clock on Saturdays, and no time on Sundays, bank or public holidays. There's what I've heard previously in terms of what Neil Emery has said in terms of signs, that's giving a different time. Councillor Iqbal, the times he's mentioned is giving a different time. Alex, can you confirm what are the hours of operation? Surely we've got to go off what's in the application before us.
The committee has the option to set the hours of operation with a condition. So ultimately that can be set by the committee within, obviously, as long as that is considered to be a reasonable condition, the committee has the option to set those hours if the application is approved.
I'm not satisfied at this moment in time in terms of making a decision, and I'm possibly going to suggest that we defer this application for a number of reasons. I think there needs to be more discussion around, particularly the highways, which concerns me, the highway concerns, because my understanding is normally for a car wash you would require, or you would see or expect to see vehicles entering the site from one side and leaving through a different site, whereas my understanding is there's only one access way for entering and leaving.
That is the case, yes. However, what has been applied for isn't actually a car wash, it's a car valeting business, which actually falls under use class B1, which is light industry, rather than a car wash, which is a sui generis use, which that would require a different planning permission. So it would be less intensive than an out-and-out car wash use.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Iqbal.
Sorry, can you hear me, Chairman?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of the timings, I mean, I've proposed that it's 8 in the morning till 8 at night. You know, I couldn't care what anybody puts on a sign. I see we've got Nadeem Jr. sat behind him now joining the meeting. But in terms of the hours, I mean, somebody can put on a sign whatever they want. I mean, this committee determines the timings, and you know, the conditions that have been put forward by the planning officer are quite reasonable in my opinion. I'm proposing the hours of 8 in the morning till 8 at night. And I would ask, reiterate to colleagues to support again, Chairman.
Yeah, I'm happy to go along with that. So it's straightforward. Is there anybody else to speak, Jane?
Yeah.
Nick Emery and also Mohammed Aslam have still got their hands up.
Oh no, I must not have turned my hand off. Just bear with me. Sorry about that.
Right, Councillor Aslam then. Last speaker.
Yeah, it's all right for Councillor Iqbal to say the times, but the times the applicant is applying for is 8 till half 5. It says in the report here. Is it not these times what he's asking for, or are we setting the time, giving more till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whatever time? And it says in here 8 till half 5 and 9 till 1 on weekends, on Saturdays and Sunday and bank they could close. So what actually hours are there? If he is applying for them, are we giving him more hours? Right?
Right, Councillor Iqbal, please come back.
Chairman, clearly Councillor Aslam's not read the report and the application. If he cares to go and read the application, the applicant was asking from 8 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. These were the officer's recommended restrictions. Well, I've just Googled the application online whilst he was speaking. And if he wants a minute or so to look at the application, it says 8 in the morning till 9 at night. I'm restricting it 8 in the morning till 8 at night.
Alex, can you please come back and clarify that? I know you said we can set it, but just to clarify for Mr. Aslam, Councillor Aslam.
Just a second, just to clarify.
Can you bring up the application on the screen?
If you give me a minute or two, I can bring up the application form.
Okay. I think after 5 o'clock, there's less traffic on the road anyway, so it wouldn't make much difference, even if it's carried on, you know, till 8 o'clock.
While we're waiting, Mr. Chairman, I'm okay to speak. Or do you want me to wait?
Go on, it's all right. Yeah, go for it.
I mean, honestly, I genuinely have concerns over this site. In terms of, number one, in terms of the highway issues and also the drainage issues. And I don't think I've formally moved that we defer the application. I'll do that now, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Alex? Go for it, Alex.
So, Chairman, this is from the application form. So, as for Councillor Aslam's benefit, it says 8 in the morning till 9 at night. That's what the applicant wanted, but we're restricting it.
Is everybody clear now? That's what he was asking, and Councillor Iqbal's proposal is 8 till 8. So I'm happy with that.
Well, Chairman, at the moment, can I just check? You've only got one proposal moved and seconded, which is mine and yours, to approve. Councillor Aslam's moved refusal. There's no seconder. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed has moved deferral, and there's no seconder at the moment, unless Jane can correct me.
Councillor Nadeem Ahmed, do you have a seconder?
I'm not sure, unless Councillor Aslam.
No, he's got his own proposal. He's got his own proposal, so.
He can bin his proposal and support mine.
Yeah, I'll second Nadeem.
Yes, he's binned his.
Right, is. Right, okay. We've got a second proposal for refusal. No, sorry, this is deferral, isn't it? And we've got second for it as well. Okay, we'll go for the vote then. I don't think we need to drag it anymore. Councillor George Adam, if you are back, we're going for deferring this application till next time. I don't know when that is going to be. Can I have your vote, please, George? No,
You'll have to come back to him, Sakib. He's just rung me to say he's having problems logging back on.
Right, okay, don't worry, we'll come back to him. Right, okay. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed?
For.
Councillor Zafar Ali?
Against.
Councillor Mohammed Amr?
Against.
Councillor Mohammed Aslam?
For.
Councillor Mohammed Iqbal?
This is for deferment. I'm against deferment. Against deferment.
Yeah. Councillor Mohammed Saqib against. Councillor Yvonne Tennant?
Against.
And Councillor Sheila Wicks?
Against.
So, Jane, we have 2, 4, 6 against the deferral and 2 in favour. Councillor George Adam still trying to log in. I don't think it'll make any difference whichever way he votes. So we'll take that as the vote taken on deferral. Yeah, that was Councillor Nadeem. Sorry, I'm doing my paperwork at the same time as well. And seconded by Councillor Aslam. And this is on.
I think George is back in the house.
Right, okay, doesn't matter. You can take part in the next vote. Right, we go back to the original proposal to approve this application as Councillor Iqbal have proposed, 8 till 8. Councillor George Adam, can we have your vote then, please? Councillor George Adam? Okay, he's not with us. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed?
Abstain.
Abstain and Nadeem Ahmed. Okay. Councillor Zafar Ali?
4, Chairman.
Councillor Mohammed Amr?
4.
Councillor Mohammed Aslam?
Against.
Councillor Mohammed Iqbal?
4.
Councillor Mohammed Saqib? 4. Councillor Yvonne Tennant?
4.
And Councillor Sheila Wicks?
I'm going to go against because I'm not entirely happy with this application.
Yeah, that's your right. Okay, against. Councillor George Adam, are you back? Councillor George Adam, are you with us? No, so he's not present. So. Right, okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 votes in favor of this application, 2 against, 1 abstaining, and 3, 6, 7 not present. So this application is approved, and we move on to next application. Right. Okay. Next application in front of us is for the erection of front extension with roof lantern and installation of additional windows to rear elevation at Whitefield Community Centre, 212A Manchester Road, Nelson. I do have a speaker. I'm not sure whether he wants to speak or not, or whether he's even logged in. I don't think he's even logged in. Mr. Arshad. Can I ask the ward councillor, Councillor Nadeem Ahmed, to take lead on it if she wants? Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
Sorry, yes.
Councillor. Yeah.
Yes. This application, I mean, useful in terms of the site itself. It's really beneficial for some of the residents in that area. In terms of the community use that it gives. Again, another question on this application. The report mentions that there may be some issues regarding planning and possible that there's been some sort of officers are investigating the current use of the site. Is that the position at the moment, or has that been concluded?
Alex, anybody? I have no information on this.
Through you, Chair. I'm not aware. I'm not involved in that investigation directly, so I'm not aware of the position of it. However, any unauthorised use of the site wouldn't be material to this application itself. This application should be determined on its own merits.
Alex, but surely if there's issues regarding the use of the building itself, the proposal before us is looking to extend the building further. So surely in terms of the numbers possibly that can use the site, that's going to increase yet further. But we yet, as a councillor, we've been put in this unfortunate position where we've been asked to make a decision regarding the use of the building, in effect. They are interlinked, I would argue.
The application is on the basis of the lawful use of the building. Therefore, it's ultimately the main impact of this is in terms of the potential visual amenity issues and residential amenity issues, which are addressed in the report and are acceptable. So the use doesn't affect the principle of whether or not this development is acceptable.
In terms of the use of the building itself, I mean, like I said, quite happy because it's brought huge benefit to some of the local residents in that area. But I do have concerns in terms of the proposal before us, in terms of the extension. The report does say, in terms of what you've just repeated, in terms of the residential amenity issues, if you go down at any busy period when children are being dropped off or picked up in a busy residential street where there are already significant parking and traffic problems, and we're just compounding the issue yet further. So on that reason, I will move that we refuse this application.
Just bear with me. Sorry, Jen, can you help me, please? Who's next, please? Anybody? I've lost the feed.
You need a seconder first for the refusal.
I'll second Nadine.
Second Chair Alex was wanting to come in.
Alex, please.
Chairman, if the application is, if the committee is minded to refuse on that basis, I believe it would be a substantial risk of costs against the council in any appeal, and this application would therefore have to be referred to Policy and Resources Committee, subject to consultation with our legal section.
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I lost everyone there. I couldn't see it. Okay. So we've got a proposal to refuse it, and we've got seconder. Do I have a proposal to this? Councillor Iqbal, I see your hand up.
Thanks, Chairman. I mean, where the community centre is located, clearly Manchester Road is a busy road. The side streets were not built to have cars, and we're now in 2020 where people have got cars. But as Alex says, in terms of the report, the highways comments talk about the car issue. The residential amenity is also raised. I mean, but we're dealing with the application that what is there before us, and irrespective of what other things are going on around in the area, I think the recommendation from the planning officer is quite a valid one. And certainly in terms of the refusal, it's quite a weak grounds for refusal indicated by both councillors Nadeem Ahmed and Aslam. Therefore, Chairman, I'm going to move an amendment that we approve the application as set out, with the conditions as set out.
Right.
Chairman, can I come in?
Councillor, is that Zafar Ali?
It is, yes. Thank you, Chairman. I happen to come across the same paragraph that Councillor Iqbal is referring to, that the remaining alterations would serve existing rooms and wouldn't directly increase the site's capacity. For those reasons, the proposed development is acceptable in relation to parking and other highway matters. I'd like to second Councillor Iqbal on the proposal. I don't want to regurgitate the arguments for and against. The report is very detailed, but I think the conclusion is the right one to approve this development. Chairman, thank you.
Anyone else? No, then we'll go straight to vote, and we'll take the second proposal, which is Councillor Iqbal's proposal to approve it. And will be seconded by Councillor Zafar as well. Councillor Muhammad Iqbal, Councillor Zafar Ali. Right, okay. George, are you with us? Can I have your vote?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here.
Right, okay. Councillor Iqbal has proposed to approve this application. Are you in favour of the application or against?
Yeah, for.
Councillor Nadeem Ahmed?
Against.
Councillor Zafar Ali?
For.
Councillor Muhammad Amr?
For.
Councillor Muhammad Aslam?
Against.
Councillor Muhammad Iqbal?
For what?
Councillor Muhammad Saqib? For. Councillor Yvonne Tennant?
For.
And Councillor Sheila Wiggs?
For.
And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favor of approving the application and 2 against. That basically means it's approved. And let me just take the one not present. Not present. Not present, not present, not present. 3, 5. Should be another one. So we have 6 not present, 2 against, and 7 in favor. Is that okay, Jane?
Yes, that's fine.
That's fine. So this application is approved. I don't think we need to take a vote on Councillor Nadeem Ahmed's proposal to refuse. Julie?
No, I think we've got sufficient approval, haven't we?
Yeah. So this is carried. Okay. So that's approved. Next application in front of us is a 2-story extension and porch to side, and a 2-story or single-story extension to rear, and front porch at 41 Rakeshouse Road, Nelson. Since this is in Reedley Road, can I ask Councillor Iqbal to come in first? Councillor Iqbal?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. I mean, the officer recommendation is to refuse this because of its close proximity and the design issues. I mean, for people that are aware of this particular site, it's a very large property with a large plot which currently has one of them open plan garages on the corner of Rakeshouse Road. So it's not your conventional semi or terrace property. Chairman, I think the proposal in terms of the 2-story extension, the porch to side, is not keeping out of character. And I think, if anything, will enhance it. And in terms of the front side, obviously, it's only a part double and a part single-story extension. So what the householder clearly is doing is maximising the space that he's got. Clearly, some architect has suggested to him what he can do to maximise it, and all credit to them. So I'm happy to move that we approve this application, subject to the standard conditions.
Yeah, I'm happy to second this, Chair. Second from the Chair. I had the opportunity to actually go around to have a look actually when it was recommended for approval under the revised delegation, and I didn't find any issues whatsoever there. So I'm happy to second that. If there's no speaker, I don't see any hands up. I'll go straight to vote.
Councillor Aslam.
Yeah,
Chairman.
I'm happy to approve it as well. So all 3 councillors are in favour, so I'm happy to approve as well.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Is there anybody else who wants to speak, or can I go to vote?
You can go to vote, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor George Adam. Proposal is to approve this application set by Councillor Mohammed Iqbal. George, are you with us?
Chairman, I think he's gone again. He keeps dipping in and out now.
No worries. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
For.
Councillor Zafar Ali. Councillor Zafar Ali.
Sorry, Chairman, it looks like we've lost him as well.
All right, Councillor Mohammed Amir.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Aslam.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Iqbal.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Saqib. For. Councillor Yvonne Bennett.
For.
And Councillor Sheila Wiggs.
For.
I'll just ask for George again, just in case if he's come back. Otherwise, we'll.
Sorry, Chairman. I think I also had a little technical glitch. I am for the application.
I was gonna call you up. So, Councillor Zafar Ali, Councillor Iqbal has proposed to approve this application. This is a 41 Rakeshouse Road.
Yes, I'm for. I'm in favour. Yes, Chairman. Thank you.
Right. Councillor George Adam.
Sorry, Chairman, he's still not with us.
Right. Okay. We'll class that as not present. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 votes in favour of this application. That's unanimous. Everybody voted in favour. And we have one. George, sorry to say. Just 1 second, please. Eileen Unser, not present. Councillor Cooney, not present. Councillor Henson not present. Councillor Astrid not present. McGovern not present. And Kath Shaw not present. So 2, 4, 6, 8, and 7 not present. So this application is carried. That's carried. That is proposed and seconded, so that's done. Next application we've got on the agenda is for change of use from retail shop to restaurant and hard food takeaway. Installation of new shop front and vertical extractor flue to rear at 31 Scotland Road, Nelson. I have been advised if it is approved, it will go to Policy and Resources Committee due to the fact that there might be more than 25% of the similar shops in that block. Alex, do you want to come in first and then I'll let anybody else come in, or are you happy with that?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, this application, it would result in this primary shopping frontage having it's already over 25%. It would take it further past the 25% mark, which is the limit that's required by policy 26 of the replacement Pendle local plan to protect the retail function of shopping frontages. And therefore it would be a significant departure from policy if this were to be approved, and it would need to be referred to Policy and Resources Committee subject to consultation with our legal section.
As this is in Bradley Road, can I ask Councillor Iqbal to come in and have say?
Yeah, Chairman, thank you. I mean, I don't want to prolong the meeting, so I can see that it's getting up to 4 o'clock. The Nelson Area Committee's never ever gone this far. But I mean, I've had a walk down this block of Scotland Road, and I emailed Neil Watson, who's our planning manager, before the meeting, but I understand he may be busy elsewhere, to question this 25% rule, because as far as I can see, only on that one block is Kath's Kitchen Cafe. I can't see any other takeaways or restaurants there. I understand the non-retail use may equate to that empty building that was the former Education County Council Information Centre. But, Chairman, for the purposes of this afternoon, I'm happy to move that we approve the application. And then when the discussion takes place with legal, I can then pick up that outside of this meeting rather than having a prolonged debate now. So I'm happy to move approval.
I'll second that from the chair. Anybody else want to speak?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Henry?
Yeah. With far too many takeaways in Nelson, it detracts shoppers. People want to come into town for a variety of shops. They don't want one takeaway after another takeaway after another. We're already well known in this part of Lancashire as being takeaway from Briarfield right through to Combe, probably more takeaways than just about any other similar town in the country. There's no demand for more takeaways, but what there is a demand for are decent shops to attract folk into the town. I'd sooner see the place left empty for 12 more months myself, and hopefully another type of shop open up rather than yet another takeaway which just sits there. It's fun. I've no doubt it'll be nicely done up, but it's not going to attract any shoppers. And we're already struggling. And after this lockdown, I don't know how we're going to cope because there's no one about now. There's in parts of the borough where there are roads running through, it's a little bit better than Nelson. But in Nelson, it's grim, and we all know that. But the only way to attract people in, or one of the ways, is to have a variety of shops. And this is not going to be a variety. It's just going to be one more takeaway on top of the 20 or 30 that we already have. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Chairman, we've got Councillor Nadeem Ahmed waiting to speak.
Councillor Nadeem Ahmed first, please.
Thank you. I have to agree with the recommendation and the report, and what Alex has set out, the reasons why this application should be refused. We are having huge and possible investment into Nelson Town Centre, where we are trying to improve our town centre. We're trying to bring in retail, and with the current pandemic, retail has taken a huge and significant blow. And we should be encouraging retail in our town centre. I agree with Mr. Emery in terms of his comments regarding too many takeaways. We have these discussions regularly on twofold. Number one, that we should be working with our retail sector, we should be helping them, and yet what do? We're not helping the retail sector in our town. Let's be honest about it. Let's have an honest debate for once. Secondly, we have this argument constantly about health and well-being, about people's lifestyles. We know the health issues here in Pendle and Nelson, particularly in terms of the significantly disproportionate number of people suffering from heart disease, diabetes, and yet we keep approving takeaways in our town. And there has to be a limit. Yes, there is an argument that it's the market that dictates the number of takeaways we have and who we to decide, who we to say how many takeaways. If there's people going to the takeaways, let them go. But surely, us councillors have a responsibility, and let's put a stop to this. This application was put forward by the applicant. The recommendation was for refusal. We should have just left it with the officers, let them refuse it. We need to send a clear message. I think the time has come now where us councillors, rather than, I'm not speaking of all councillors, so don't be offended anyone, but it's come a time where us councillors have to learn to say no to when people approach us and say, yes, will you support my application, rather than just willy-nilly, without considering the policy, without considering our constituents and the long-term impact that will have on our children. It's a shambles. The way our decision-making process is ongoing in Nelson, and particularly our committee, anywhere else this will get turned down. But no, this is Nelson. We're going to approve anything that what people say. We're going to give in and simply say, yes, you want this approved. We will approve it, sir. No problem. You just put it in. That's what's going on, and we need to put a stop to it. And I know some councillors are going to get offended and they'll come back and say comments, but that's the truth. So I'm going to be moving that we refuse this application for mainly because of, I know there's health and the other issues which I've mentioned, but mainly primarily because of we've already gone over the 25% limit, and we don't want to hinder our retail yet further. I'll move that.
Do you have a seconder, Councillor Ahmed?
I'll second Nadeem.
Right, okay, thank you for that. Councillor Iqbal, do you want to come back in, or can I just go straight to vote, please?
Is there any other speakers, Chairman?
Through you, Chairman. Yes, there is.
Yes, there is.
Councillor George Adam.
Councillor George, please.
Yeah, I agree with Nadeem. A few years ago, we were talking about putting a limit on takeaways in Nelson. And then if one closed, and they could open it again. But we we're going to put a moratorium, going to put a fixed number. And I don't know whatever happened to that. But I do agree. I mean, you only have to look on social media what they say about Nelson and takeaways, and I just tend to agree, and I agree with the planning officer.
And who else was it, Jane, please?
I think it's just Councillor Iqbal now.
Councillor Iqbal.
Thanks, Chairman. I mean, George is right. A few years ago, there was a proposal from this area committee that Councillor Ahmed wants to knock this afternoon, of which he's been a member for a long while, to say, look, we put a limit on various types of establishments. But the government of the day, and it's Councillor Ahmed's colleagues, who said we couldn't do that as a council. We're not allowed to, but the market dictates what goes where. In terms of the town centre and the retail demand, Councillor Ahmed is part of the Nelson Town Deal Board, and you know everybody on this committee and across Nelson have heard over the last few months, prior to the crashes, that Nelson was going to get £25 million for the town centre and £25 million for the town. But let me share with you, colleagues, that it's not going to be that, because Councillor Ahmed's aware at the Town Deal Board last meeting, the figures have been watered down by government, right down significantly to the tune of a few million. And then we have to justify why we're going to need it. I'm all for retail development, which is the case, but the fact is the market dictates and the customers dictate what comes into the town centre. And that particular block of Scotland Road has been a blight for a number of years. Credit to those people that have stuck at it. Credit to those retailers that have decided to stick it out. But I'm seriously concerned that going forward, once we're out of this pandemic, if we ever get out of it, what's going to happen to the state of retail? If the likes of the big players in the retail industry are pulling out their shops, what hope has Nelson got? And not just Nelson, across Pendle for that matter. You know, I'm meeting businesses across from Corn, Banoldswick, Barrowford and Whitefield who are that stuck as a result of what's gone on, that they're seriously thinking of closing up and moving, completely packing in. So the reason that I move approval, Chairman, and you know, I love to have any additional takeaways in the town. If you read the application, this is a change of use to a restaurant, which is an A3 and clearly an A5. Now, a restaurant may be a cafe similar to what's already on Scotland Road. How do any of us know what the sell of this particular applicant is? We're jumping to conclusions, in my opinion, wrongly. And that's the reason that I've moved approval. I mean, between now and the Policy and Resources Committee, it's well up to the applicant, whoever he or she is, to come forward to that committee and share with us what their plans are. You know, so rather than jumping to conclusions and attacking the area committee, we should look to work with the people that want to invest in the town.
As I said earlier on, that if it is approved, it will go to Policy and Resources. So since we've got obviously a proposal to refuse it as well from Councillor Nadeem Ahmed, we're going to go to take vote on that first. Councillor George Ashton, can I take your vote? To this is to
who are we voting on? You broke up a bit there, Mr. Chairman.
This is to refuse the application.
To refuse it?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm for that. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
Refuse it, Chairman.
4. Yeah. Councillor Zafar Ali.
Against, Chairman.
Against. Councillor Mohammed Ahmed.
Against.
Against. Eileen not present. Councillor Mohammed Aslam.
For.
Councillor Cooney is not present. Councillor Mohammed Iqbal.
Against.
Councillor Rashid is not present. Khan is not present. And then it's Mohammed Saqib, and that's against. Councillor Yvonne Tennant.
Against.
And Councillor Sheila Wicks.
In this case, with mixed feelings, but on balance, I'll go for refusal.
So you are in favour of to refuse. So that is
yes.
Right. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 in favour to refuse the application, and 5 in favour to approve this application, and 6 not present. So this motion is lost. Now we come back to the main one, which was Councillor Iqbal's, to approve it. And Councillor George Adam, we start with you again, and this is to approve the application.
Against.
Against. Nadeem Ahmed, Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
Against.
For, Chairman.
Councillor Mohammed Ahmed.
For.
Councillor, just 1 second, not present. Councillor Mohammed Aslam.
Against.
Against. Councillor Cooney, not present. Henderson, not present. Councillor Muhammad Iqbal.
Or
Councillor Asjad, not present. Neil is not present. Councillor Muhammad Saqib, 4. Councillor Shore is not here. Councillor Yvonne Tennant.
I'm going to abstain because I have got mixed feelings. So.
Abstain. Okay. And Councillor Sheila Wicks.
Against.
Right. Okay. So we've got 4 in favor of approving this application, 4 against, 1 abstaining. That's 9, and 6 not present. Jane, is that what you have?
Yes, that's what I have, but you will need to take your casting vote as chairman.
Yeah. Well, because I know it's definitely going to Policy and Resources Committee, and so I will be voting in favor of approval. So I'll vote again to approve this application. So that is approved from here, but it will go to Policy and Resources. Just 1 second, let me just do the paperwork. And this is the time when I have to leave, and I'll ask Councillor Iqbal to take the chair. And if I can log out, I have to log out, don't I, Jane? Obviously.
Yes, you do, and we'll invite you back.
Right, okay, thank you.
okay, I think he's left as anti-Jane. Can't see him on the participant list.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so the application is to for a 2-story rear and side extension and connecting 2 properties with a single-story front and porch and parking to the front of 129 and 131. There's been a revised update report, which I assume councillors have read, that was circulated earlier this afternoon. So I understand that and Alex is on the call still, that the size of the 2-story rear extension has been significantly reduced. But the recommendation is still for refusal because it's changing the uniformity of the block. Is that right, Alex?
Yes, that is the case. So it's just a design ground now rather than a residential amenity ground that was reason for refusal.
That's fine. I mean, in terms of the issue around that it's changing the format of the block, I mean, these were all council houses where you've got 2 semis not on 1 block, in fact. And previous, obviously, council tenants had single occupancies. Now, the applicant has clearly bought the 2 properties together and wants to create them into 1 ultimately. Hence the reason I assume that the application has been submitted. So I'm going to move from the chair that we approve the application, subject to any standard conditions that planning may impose. Do I have a seconder to approve?
I'll second it, Chairman.
Thanks, Zaf. Is there anybody to speak? I can't see any hands raised. Hold on, somebody's Nadeem. Nadeem Ahmed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just want to ask through you a question for Alex. In terms of the reasons which have been set out for refusal, we've had the amended plans now. Your recommendation is still refusal. And ask why. Because I would have thought the residential amenity part of it's now been taken out. So what's the issue?
The issue is the visual appearance of it. It's the impact that it would have on the street scene, the linking of the 2 semi-detached properties would result in a sort of terracing effect between them, which would have an unacceptable impact on the street scene.
Can I just pick up on one point in terms of what it says in the recommendation? In terms of, it says the design of the proposed extensions is poor and disjointed in relation to the existing dwelling house. Can you expand on that, please? What do you mean disjointed?
Well, I can bring up a plan of it. Just give me a second.
Yvonne, you could have sung us a song by now.
While
Okay.
Alex
Can
is
everyone
doing-
see that?
all right, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I believe, like I say, the officer that wrote the report was particularly concerned about the terracing effect and the visual impact of having that link between the two properties and just the general design of it.
Does that answer your question, Nadine?
Yes, it does. But to me, the plans don't look so bad, Alex. Apart from, I take the point on board in terms of the terracing effect. But the plans themselves, to me, look quite nice. You disagree, obviously.
Well, to some extent, it is a subjective matter. So that is one of the reasons why this isn't an application that would need to be referred to Policy and Resources Committee if the committee decide to go a different way from the recommendation on it. It is a subjective matter, but ultimately that is our professional advice.
Yeah, that's fine. But my concern, and in terms of personally, I think the design itself doesn't look too bad. My concern is more. This is an application of. I know we've got to treat all applications on its merits, and all applicants have to be treated fairly and equally. But this is a fellow councillor, and we as his colleagues need to be seen to be doing the right thing, and acting and doing the right thing, and give the appearance to the general public that we are doing the right thing. But I suggest then, because I personally wouldn't want somebody saying, well, councillors have approved it, and this is a councillor only being biased and etc., even though we are from different political parties. But I'd be happier at this stage to have this deferred, Mr. Chairman.
Deferred for
a site visit. People can go in their own time and have a look. And
yeah,
come to their own.
I think in terms of your point about that, fellow councillors should they not decide on fellow councillors' application. I mean, you've been in that situation, recently. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, irrespective of who you are or what you are, the application is dealt with on its merits, and you just take the name out of the equation. I mean, the issue around the residential amenity, I think, was of a serious concern to officers. That I understand has been addressed. So as Alex says, now it's just a subjective view that, does the appearance of the front deflect from what was there for 100 years? Well, it clearly does. But the fact is that those properties were previously occupied by single occupants, and there are porches on that block where people have got porches on the fronts.
Yeah, Chairman, with respect, the application which I've previously put in, myself or people I've been related to, the recommendation has always been approval. I've made sure the planning officer is on my side, and I've complied and done exactly what the planning officer. If this was me, I'll be honest with you, if this was my application and it was recommended for refusal, I wouldn't have let it come to this stage. I would have amended my plans and done. Everyone's different, but that's Councillor Sakib is entitled to do what he's done. Nothing against that, but I personally wouldn't have taken that approach.
Okay, so can I just ask you then, what would a site visit achieve?
I think councillors, members who haven't been on site, to have a look at them houses, give them an opportunity to go and see for themselves, and see the other properties within that area, because the report is saying because it's going to create that terracing effect. Then we can view individually. Do we feel that is going to cause a significant impact on that street scene, and is it going to look out of place and out of character for that area?
Okay, fine. Do you have a seconder for the deferment for a site visit, whenever that may be?
I'll second Nadeem.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to speak before I take the vote?
I've got my hand up.
Oh, sorry, Yvonne. I can't see your hands up. Yvonne?
I was just going to say, councillors are residents as well, and they should be treated the same as residents. So I don't think a deferment just because somebody is a councillor is really a valid thing to say, because they put it in. Do you know what I mean? They put it in as a resident. So a deferment to have another look at it is like making a special deal for councillors. The opposite of what's being proposed, really.
Okay. If I miss somebody out in terms of the voting, just please shout out. So I've made a note of who I think is here. So we're voting now on the deferment of this application for a site visit down this century. George?
I'll be against that.
Okay.
I'm in gridlock.
All right, Nadine?
For.
Zafar?
Against.
Amma?
Against.
Aslam?
For.
Okay. Myself, for. Yvonne?
Against.
And Sheila?
Against.
Okay. That proposal has been defeated. Sorry, did I miss anybody out? No. Okay, so we now move on to the substantive proposal, which was mine, seconded by Zafar. That's to approve the application with conditions set by officers. George?
For.
Nadeem?
For.
Zafar?
For.
Amma?
For.
Aslam?
For.
Iqbal? For. Yvonne?
For.
Sheila?
For.
Oh, thank you very much. That seems to be a unanimous decision there, Jane.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's me out to the chair. So somebody needs to contact Sakib to get him back in, I think.
Yeah, we're sorting that.
Shall I continue with the meeting in the meantime?
No. It'll only be a minute.
This has to go down as the longest meeting on record of this committee. That's right, Ron. You need to mute yourself. We can hear you breathing. What's he saying, Jen?
Well, there's a bit of delay with emails, isn't there? So as soon as he's got it, he's.
I'm sure he'll be happy for me to continue.
Well, he may well be. He may well be. We have to go through the process.
Whilst he joins us, I'll deal with the next item.
Okay, anyway. Till he comes in, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So the next one is just for comment at this stage. This is the erection of 114 dwellings up at the former Jimmy Nelson site. There's no vote on this, so this is just for comments at this stage. This will go to the Policy and Resources Committee meeting in due course. Does anybody have any comments on this one at this stage? Jane, tell me if somebody sticks their hand up.
Yeah, nobody has yet.
So does nobody have any comment? I mean, you don't have to comment. You can make comments at the Policy and Resources if you so choose. Give you 10 seconds. No comments offered. So it'll go to, well, it's going to Policy and Resources anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Right, everyone.
Are you back with
Can
us?
we move on? Yeah.
So we're just on item 4.
Okay, 3B is done. So item 4, this is reopening of Fender Town Centre. Council, you want to take the lead on this?
Yeah, Chairman, as you will be aware from the report, there is some money allocated from the central pot to help reopening of town centres. And we're asked to develop a task force. So can I just put forward some suggestions from the area committee and other agencies, and then we can take it from there. Can I suggest that there's 4 members of this area committee that are allocated that task force, and that's 3 Labour members, namely yourself, Chairman, Councillor Yvonne Tennant and George Adam, with one space available to the Conservative group, and I don't know whether Councillor Nadeem Ahmed wants to give the name now. Two colleagues from the
I'll
town.
come back to you.
All right, 2 colleagues from the town council, and then also 2 from the town centre. One being Mr. Emery, and for Mr. Emery to invite another colleague, whoever he chooses fit to be, unless he wants to give a name now.
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, Chairman, the intention is that this task force, obviously with the government announcing that town centres will be reopening next Monday, my suggestion to you is that the meeting is convened very quickly virtually. So if both councillors, Nadeem Ahmed, Zafar from the town council and Mr. Emery can get their names into Jane by tomorrow, then the meeting can take place and have a discussion very quickly thereafter. And try and help the retailers get back up and running as quickly as possible. So I'll move those, Chairman.
Through you, Chairman. Through you, Chairman. Can I just come in?
Yeah.
It'll be myself along with my deputy, Councillor Nazim Hayat. Very likely to be Councillor Nazim Hayat. If anything changes, I'll let Jane know. Thank you, Chairman.
And can I ask Jane if you can organize this meeting, or who will be organizing this? I think it might be a good idea to just go through yourself, Jane.
We can set something up for you, but we'll have discussions in the office. I'll let you know the process.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Okay.
Can I just say something, Mr. Chairman, briefly?
Yeah, Nadeem.
Yeah. This funding's welcomed from the government. It's not a significant amount of money, but it is something which will help us come up with some ideas and plans in terms of giving information out to the public and working with our retail sector, which has been significantly affected because of the coronavirus. So I think whatever little we can do to work with the businesses in Nelson will be great, and we need to try and come up with something really positive for our businesses. Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and especially Jane, you and your rest of the team for organizing and for all the residents. Obviously, they've been waiting for such a long time to to see what the outcome of the application's been. So I'm sure they'll be more than happy where they've been approved, especially. So thank you very much, councillors, and we'll be in touch, I'm sure, for the next meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe. Stay alert.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.